Okay, we're going to get the handlebar. We're going to get to the handlebar clamps on this Road King. I just want to loosen the clamps and curl the bars back towards me a little bit. So the first thing to do is to take the trim ring off. Just one screw on the bottom. And then there's this tab in the top, this wire tab that goes in a slot here. So just one screw on the bottom holds it in. And then you're going to take out the whole headlight assembly, so which is this this whole outer plate. And I have always done this according to what Two-Wheel Rocco tells us to do. I always do what Two-Wheel Rocco tells us. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, I highly recommend it. He seems to work mostly on Sportsters and Road Kings, so those are the two bikes I have. I have a Sportster and I have a Road King, so he's great. This particular Road King is a 1998. It's an old police bike. Some of you have probably noticed that from the black nacelle and the tachometer. Oh, so what I was saying about Two-Wheel Rocco, he says take these out in order, you know, clockwise, one at a time, go around the circle, take them out. This bike is missing one or two. Okay, so that frees that up. So again, you're taking the whole kind of headlight bucket out. You're not taking the headlight assembly out. You're not moving. These are adjusters here. You've got a up-down adjuster and a left-right adjuster over here. And then you also have these which hold the headlight glass in place, this chrome ring. Not undoing those. Just taking out the whole bucket, pull the plug off, set it on the table. So the next thing to do is to take this chrome trim piece off, and it just has a little tin nut. It's barely a nut. I just go at it with these needle nose. Just takes a couple of little turns to get it started. I think I might have actually put that back in with a proper wrench last time. So maybe we're gonna have to do that. Alright, hold on. Okay, so if you can't get it with a needle nose, 5/16 is the size. See, I've got a towel on my fender. So yeah, that's just a, let's see if I can show this to you. It's just like a little pressed, little stamped tin nut. And this just lifts right off. And we set that aside. Okay, next with this bike, because it's a police bike, we take the tachometer off. These are 1/2 inch. And for some reason these, oh no, these are coming nice. Sometimes these need a wrench the whole way up the thread. And no, I don't actually have any deep sockets. That's why I'm using this ratchet box end, because a regular, bad form. Sorry y'all had to see that. Okay. Tack just lifts off and it sets very nicely right down there. This plastic bit just lifts off. Just little nubs holding that on. So now we're going to take this cover off. Actually, we're not going to take it all the way off. We're going to loosen it and flip it around, because this screw right here, you'll see, there's a thing with that screw. So these two screws come out. Okay, so here's the part where I want to be really careful. So I'm going to start loosening this screw here, but I don't want it to come all the way out because my hand doesn't fit. I can't reach it inside. I can barely touch it in through here because it's all packed with wiring in there. So what I found is I can loosen this enough, and I'm pulling up on this whole thing. I'm pulling up on it, which holds tension on the nut enough so that when I unscrew it, it's actually it's lifting. And I've done this a few times, so I can kind of tell. Famous last words, right? It's a pretty long screw, but I can unscrew it enough so that I can just turn it around like this. I don't want that to come undone entirely because, like I said, I just can't get my hand up in there. If I had to feed that nut back on inside there, who knows how long it would add to this job. So here we are. Here are the clamps right here. I made a note for myself with a Sharpie, 12 to 15 foot-pounds with a torque wrench. I've also made a little mark here. I actually curled these up a notch this morning, and I don't like it, so I'm going to put them back. I'm going to put them back where they were, and I made a mark there this morning so I can tell me, so I can know where they were. That's not it. All right, that's a 1/4 inch. 1/4 do this, whether it makes sense or not, I do it in a cross pattern. Just always good practice. If you've ever worked on, I don't know, other things, heads and covers and things, you know you do it in cross pattern. Alright, see if that's loose enough. Not quite. It goes from too tight to just totally floppy, like really quickly. And I'm just looking at this mark that I put on it this morning before I went to work. Just want to, ooh, there we go. Just want to return it to that mark. And where I'm putting them back is what I think is the stock position, which is if you look at the bike from the side, the line of the forks, the visual line of the forks, you know, the handlebars just continue the straight visual line of the forks. I put them up a notch because I got a new saddle. I got a Mustang saddle. And it's just got a little more loft to it, so I thought I'd put the bars up. But then I find, just for me, the higher the bars, I get numbness in my hands if the bars are too high. This had high bars on it when I got it, and these are the stock 98 buckhorns. I really like them. Okay, so I snubbed them up with the regular ratchet and torqued them. And my torque wrench is still set from this morning when I did this operation. I think I've got it set at 13 pounds, splitting the difference. So maybe we'll move it up to 14. Why not? I really don't think it matters going in a cross pattern here. I mean, I think you probably want to go up and down, but I don't think the back and forth is. Wow. I would guess that was 14. That feels tighter than 14, but that's why we have machine gauges, so that we're not left entirely to our senses. Because today that feels like a lot more than, well, feels like more than 14. Alright. That's good. Much better. Alright. Let's put it back together now. Alright. Very careful not to mar any of the paint any more than it already is, although this is, you know, a little blemish, kind of adds character, but it doesn't mean I have to go out of my way to add the blemishes. This bike's 27 years old and it's doing all right. So I'm going to try to reverse the process here. If I can hold enough tension up to hold that nut in there. And I find you want to tighten this one first, because if you tighten the screws by the handlebar lock first, you can't move the cover enough. I can maybe get a finger in there to hold it. And my mental soundtrack for this is I've been listening to a lot of Bruce Springsteen lately. Never really got much into Bruce Springsteen, even though I've been hearing him on the radio for literally 50 years. Just lately getting into him. So I have promised land running through my head from darkness on the edge of town. So, right, I didn't say. So I got this little hook, this little cheap hook. I just got it at, you know, I don't know where I got it. It's cheap. And I'm reaching in there and, you know, applying some upward pressure on that nut. Just enough to hold it while I tighten the screw down. You know, this thing doesn't actually, that screw doesn't actually, you know, doesn't really hold anything. Just kind of keeps this from rattling. So that's plenty of pressure to be able to do that. All right, so that's back in. Put these little doodads back. Mister, I ain't a boy, no, I'm a man, and I believe in the promised land. Okay. This thing, you can tell how this goes on because I know that the handlebars are unlocked. So it points to unlock. Snaps back in. Good. Put this guy back in. There's that stamped nut. That's the only thing that holds it. Well, it does actually hook in with this hook here. And then this little stamped nut holds it in place. It just basically covers that seam. Hooks up in there. Da-da-da. So this morning when I put this back together, I actually used that box end and tightened it down. That's why I couldn't undo it with the vise, with the needle nose. Got the wrench here, so we'll do that again. It's such a tiny little stamped tin nut. It's kind of unnecessary to go at it with a wrench, but there it is. All right. And tack. This used to say Police Road King on it, but I take no interest in this continuing to look like a police bike. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just not my style. Someday I'm probably going to take this tack off, because I don't know if you have a vehicle, especially a motorcycle with a tachometer, you know, you only need them for a few hundred miles, and you kind of get a sense, you don't forget. Once you see that the thing doesn't like to run below, 2200 RPM, doesn't like to lug, and when you don't have a tack and the thing starts to lug, you're like, oh, well, there's 2200 RPM. And the way I ride, I never have to worry about over revving. I'm just not. Mostly I want what's going on here? I just think motors should breathe. You know, I don't like to lug them. I don't like to stress them at high RPMs either. There's a sweet spot that motors like to run. And, you know, this thing, 22's absolute lowest RPM it likes to work. And it's comfortable up to 34. You know, it'll sit at 3400 RPM pretty smoothly. Work through the gears, you can get up 4 grand plus, a little bit plus. But just as far as, you know, maintaining speed, 22 to 32 seems to be the sweet range. This, as I said earlier, this is a 1998, so it's a Evo. It's an 80-inch Evo. It's got like 40 horsepower, something like that. All right, there's that. Now we put the headlight back together. Okay, put the headlight back in. It says top right on the glass there. Top. And I've put dielectric grease, silicone grease on this, so it on that plug a long time ago. Comes on and off very nicely. And then, as I had said at the beginning, oh, it doesn't have on that. You got to do what two-wheel Rocco tells you, which is to do these in order, in rotation. He uses an electric driver, cordless driver. I have one right over there on the table, but I don't know. Just doing this by hand. It's not a hardship. Although, may not make for very exciting YouTube viewing. So while I'm doing this boring little task, I can say I bought this Road King after I bought a Sportster 3 years ago, and I chose to get a solid mount Sportster. I got an 03, so the solid mount being the motor is mounted directly to the frame without any rubber bushings, rubber motor mounts. Anyway, I love that bike. I still have it. It's beautiful. It's fun. Sounds good. And I found myself doing these 200-300 mile loops on the weekends. I live in New England, so it's going up into, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. And man, that Sportster, those are not made for 300-mile loops. Especially the one I have, which is still pretty much bone stock. It's a custom. It's a 1200C, so it's got drag bars, narrow little straight drag bars, and forward. So it's got that what they call the clamshell position. Your feet out in front of you and your hands straight out in front of you. Anyway, it gets pretty uncomfortable. Those forwards, man, those are not comfortable because gravity wants to pull your feet down, straight down. So it requires muscle tension to keep your feet, at least my feet, on those forward pegs. Anyway, I love the Sportster. Still, like I said, still have it. And I just thought, well, if I'm going to be doing 200-300 mile rides on the weekend, I should have something that's made for doing that. So I bought this. I wanted an Evo. I decided on a touring bike instead of a Softail. Figured no half measures. Get something big and comfy. And that's what I got. Something big and comfy. So this wire goes in the top. There's a slot right here, and then one screw in the bottom. So we started on the top. So anyway, I wanted an Evo touring bike with a carburetor, and I was watching the market, and I didn't want to watch the market forever, and all the carbureted Evo Road Kings that came up were they're all clapped out, and I didn't want a project. And this one came up for sale. It's got a Magneti Morelli fuel injection, which already has been problematic, but I'm sorting it out. It's had to have cam position sensor and crank sensor. A couple other things, I won't go into it. Anyway, I think it's sorted out now. Hopefully it is, but it's super comfortable. I put about 1,000 miles a month on my bikes, so got coming up on about 4,000 miles on this bike already this year, even though it's been down for a while. All right, so that's I think we're done. here are the tools for this operation. Phillips head screwdriver to take the chrome ring off the headlight and take the headlight out, the headlight bucket out. This is a 5/16. That's for the little pressed tin nut that holds the trim piece on the top of the nacelle. If it's not loose, you can get it with needle nose pliers, but this is the size. 5/16 is the size of that little pressed tin nut. And then for the clamp themselves, this is a 1/4 inch Allen, hex on a socket. And then torque wrench. It's just good practice. Torque wrenches are relatively inexpensive now, and when I clamp the bars back down, I use the torque wrench. And then for mine, because it's a police bike and it has a tachometer on it, this a half inch deep socket would work, but I don't have a 1/2 inch deep socket, so I use this ratchet box end to take the tachometer off. And then this little thing, I use that to get in there and hold the nut in place. You see that in the video. And then I always just like to have a parts tray. Why not? That's it. Basic tools. So actually, if this wasn't a police bike, you wouldn't even need that. And if you don't have a torque wrench, you don't even need that. And if you've got skinny fingers, you don't even need that. So really, you may only need the Allen wrench and the screwdriver. And if that nut's not tight, you don't even need that. So that's really all. You might get away with just Phillips head screwdriver and a 1/4 inch hex drive. That's like $5 worth of tools at a flea market. All right, anyway.